Godzilla Design Challenge. Words that make any artist or Godzilla fan for that matter filled with excitement. Today I'll be using Godzilla as a base for all of the designs, and I've picked 3 different versions to work with. They are the iconic Godzilla from Godzilla King of Monsters, Shin Godzilla, which is a rather cool but creepy looking version, and Godzilla from the 1998 Animated TV series. To make this challenge more interesting, I won't be picking the other characters or creatures that will be used with Godzilla in this design challenge. Instead, they'll be picked by 2 other amazing artists on YouTube. We have friend of the channel and awesome pop culture creator, Pearson from Popcross Studios.
Yeah.
And the absolutely talented Katelyn McCaigue, who does monster mashups and 100 Dragons series, which I absolutely love.
Yes!
If you can't tell, I'm super excited for today's video, and I hope you are as well. Let's see what I've been given to work with, shall we? Let's bring these illustrations to life. Okay, so first I'm going to get a creature design from Christian. So what have you got for me to start with?
All right, so the first character is... Have you ever played the video game or heard of the game Hades?
I've heard of the game, I've never played it.
All right, well, I am giving you the main character, Zagreus, who is the son of Hades. His design is like fairly simple, but really cool. The art style in that game is awesome. And the game is him trying to escape from the underworld. And it's a super good game. Usually with a roguelike game like that, I would usually kind of just skip the cutscenes. I usually don't play video games for the story a lot of the time, but this is one where I love the writing for all the characters so much, especially the main character, that I never skipped a single audio dialogue box. And I think both in terms of the lore for this guy's backstory and just like his design being simple but stylish and really cool, I think you're going to have fun with that one.
I really do love that design. I really love the skulls on the shoulder piece as well, kind of like for the whole Hades Cerberus feel, and then the skulls on the belt kind of like gives the whole vibe to the character, but also keeping that kind of, with the leaf bit, like that Greek mythology style for the origins and that, but yeah, that's an awesome character. Oh, I'm going to have fun with that one.
Yeah, I'm glad you like it.
And next up, we've got Katelyn. You've got some for me as well.
Yeah, so I guess the first one that I'm going to throw your way is from my favorite series of all time. And I love this design. It kind of just has some like really cool colors you can work with and patterning too. But I want to give you the Unagi from Avatar: The Last Airbender. I think it has some really cool like shapes that you could use, some cool colors, and it's just like a really fun, long serpentine type creature. I really love this character.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome pick. Yeah, no, I definitely could have fun with that. Ooh. I do like the colors as well. So like the black and the yellow on that image, just the contrast and that, as well as the kind of like sleekness of it.
Yeah, it's very much like a very cool, like eel-like creature.
Yeah.
It's really awesome.
Nice. Zagreus, the son of Hades, heir to the underworld, has tried many times to escape from the depths of Tartarus. Fed up with his life in this realm, Zagreus is driven by his single longing desire to join his birth mother in the mortal realm, a mother he has yet to meet. The gods of Olympus support his ambition, however they are limited in what they can do. Often the most they can do is grant a gift to Zagreus to aid him in this quest. However, his father Hades had other intentions for his son, stating that escape was impossible. And in order to keep Zagreus from leaving the underworld, Hades sent out many monstrous beasts to hinder his son. As soon as he is slain by one of these beasts, Zagreus is revived within the house of Hades, the palace where he and other symphonic gods dwell. Over time and over numerous attempts to escape, Hades decided to teach his son a lesson. Unbeknownst to Zagreus, he was bound to the underworld like his father, and as such, Hades, who has rule over the underworld and all that inhabit it, decided that instead of being revived in the house of Hades, Zagreus' soul would be sent to inhabit one of the many monsters sent to keep him from escaping. This monster was also a king amongst the creatures dwelling there. This was the body of one of the strongest creatures to exist. The body was that of a giant lizard that was once the protector of the world from titans. Not the titans that came before the gods, but the titans as in giant beasts akin to Kaiju. This beast had a name in the mortal realm. Its name was Godzilla. The name itself implied that it was a god amongst these titans, and it ruled over them as the apex predator, the strongest and most powerful. That was until the gods decided enough was enough, and after centuries of not showing themselves in the realm of the mortals, the gods slew Godzilla and sent its soul to reside in the underworld, trapped and subject to the bidding of Hades and the other gods. This once king was now kept at bay by the guardian of the gates of hell, Cerberus, a three-headed beast that would normally be no match for Godzilla, if it were not for the rule of the underworld chaining his power and freedom. Hades, however, was furious with Zagreus, deciding that this was not punishment enough, and he combined the soul of another beast, a giant eel-like serpent known as the Unagi, a giant titan that had a long serpentine body, no scales, but 4 yellow stripes that looked like gill slits on the side of its head. This demon of the seas had bright green eyes and glands in its mouth, which allowed it to launch highly pressurized streams of water, capable of massive destruction. It was Hades' plan to trap Zagreus in the combined body of these two colossal monsters, both apex predators, in their respective domains, and both with a wild and instinctive nature. The clash of all 3 souls was meant to torture Zagreus, taking him to the brink of insanity until he gave up on his quest to enter the mortal realm. At first, Hades' plan was working, and this strange hybrid of a titan was left in the depths of the underworld to thrash and destroy anything in its path, as the 3 souls inhabiting its body were constantly battling for control. Over time, the rampant destruction and mindless actions of this monster were becoming less and less. Instead, a calmer and more patient behaviour started to be observed. Hades was unsure what was happening after hearing that the rampage of this beast had come to a halt. He went to see the monstrous chimera, and to his surprise, the creature was standing still. Its eyes had changed to one green and one red, a large red and golden leafed crest. The same head crest of Zagreus could be seen on the head of the creature. Its shoulder had 3 distinctive skulls, the skulls of Cerberus, an iconic sign of the prince of the underworld. The shape of the eyes on the body of Godzilla had changed to match the style of the Unagi, with 4 yellow gill-like shapes on the side of its neck. As Hades looked into the eyes of this towering titan, he could feel a stern and hateful gaze back. Behind the still and motionless stance of this monster's body, a gaze that Hades knew all too well. It was a gaze his son Zagreus had given him countless times over the timeless span of the underworld. Hades was well aware that time in the underworld worked differently to that of the other realms. The deeper in the underworld you travel, the faster time goes by for those who are in that region. A few days in the mortal realm were the equivalent to hundreds, perhaps thousands of years in the depths that Zagreus was held. However, his soul had not wavered in his quest to join his birth mother. In fact, the opposite of what Hades had wanted happened. Zagreus' soul became stronger over the time he spent fighting with the other souls, sharing one body, strong enough to even suppress the will of the king of monsters. This monster, under the will of Zagreus, slowly opened its mouth and snarled at Hades. It was in this instant Hades knew that Zagreus was in control and still defying his will. Seeing this, Hades summoned several thousand monsters from within the underworld, along with a numerous titan-like beasts to teach his disobedient son another lesson. But Hades had made a grave mistake. Trapping Zagreus into this body was one thing, but placing him in the depths of the underworld had given him time to become accustomed to his new body and abilities. The spines on Zagreus' back began to glow, along with the yellow gill-shaped patterns, which were also glowing. Steam started to come out the sides of its mouth as a bright glow built up in the back of its throat. He slowly lifted his head and shot a powerful atomic blast, with clouds of powerful steam coming out the sides of his mouth. Hades had a look of pure surprise as the blast poured out the monster's mouth, and as the head moved around, it completely decimated the horde of monsters in a matter of moments. When the blast finally ended, Zagreus turned his gaze back towards Hades before saying one word: Una-Zagre-zilla. Okay, so I've decided to add some design notes into this video as it is a design challenge. For the main base of this one, I wanted to go with the most recent Godzilla, which was the one from the 2014 and more recent movies. I thought this would be a rather cool design and a solid foundation, which it was, and I'm glad I did. The design of Zagreus is super cool and awesome, and it was my first time seeing this character or hearing about him. But after looking up the background and the lore, I wanted to try and encompass some of the elements of this character into the Godzilla design, especially the Cerberus skulls on the shoulder. My next thought came from the whole underworld vibe and how it worked really nicely with the aesthetic of the character. So I wanted to try and keep the main essence and the Greek mythology feeling that the head crest and some other aspects gave. The next character for the fusion did give me a hard time to try and think how I'm going to mix this in together, and that was the Unagi from Avatar. I thought it was really cool, and it could shoot jet blasts of water. And I was thinking, is there some way to fuse this ability with the atomic breath, which is why in the story you've got the steam coming out the sides? The main features from this one that I felt could be added were the shape of the eyes. I did originally want to keep the neck Godzilla style, but I think making it a bit longer kind of helps create the Titan Chimera effect and allows some room for the gills. And perhaps the whiskers. I wasn't sure on these while doing them, but I think they turned out okay. That said, overall, I think this design came out better than I was planning.
All right. Now, next, what I have for you is a little bit, maybe not out too far outside the box, but it was actually, I haven't done a ton with Warhammer 40K yet, but when I was a kid, I had a small army of Tyranids, and the coolest one that I had that I got for Christmas one year was the Carnifex. Now, technically, there's different variations of it. So they're like, because you can, when you're building them, you can build them with different sets of arms. So the image I've sent you has like the clawed arms, but it can also have these long, like praying mantis claws or even laser guns. So I'm not specifying which kind of Carnifex design you go with, but that's the basic, like this big, like meaty sort of xenomorph T-Rex kind of vibe to it.
Wow, that is absolutely insane.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, that looks... Well, I don't know if I want to run into that with Xenomorph, to be honest.
Yeah.
That looks absolutely awesome. I'm going to have so much fun with that design, trying to mash the features in, but wow. Yeah, no, I love that design. That's
nice.
That's awesome.
I'm glad. That one definitely has a bit more detail to it than the Zagreus one.
Oh yeah, that one's definitely going to be fun to do.
So another one, I'm going to give you a Monster Hunter monster. This is another one that I really like, and its design is really cool. It's called the Pukei-Pukei, which it's like got this really cool chameleon frog-like look. And it uses its tongue to like try to grab the people that are fighting against it. And it has some really cool scaling, texturing, and I love its wings. They kind of look like amphibious feet. I just love this design overall.
Yeah, I see what you mean. The wings got like that almost like webbed look to it, which is really cool. Kind of looks like a prehistoric dinosaur you'd find as well, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that one.
Yeah, I love that like dinosaur cool look.
Got quite a few vibrant colors as well, which I could have a lot of fun with, mixing them into the design.
Yeah, it's got a lot of color palette that you can work with. I think even its stomach is more of like a yellowish tone too. So getting different angles of this one would be pretty cool.
Awesome.
The Carnifex. Horrific and deadly organic beast. It's like fighting a living tank. Those damn Tyrannoids. It wasn't bad enough that this race of alien bio-freaks were rampaging through the galaxy. They're constantly evolving and equipping these things with their more advanced bioweapons. These things are beyond a pain to deal with. And now we have to escape this world, because the Tyrannid have started to bleed it dry using those godforsaken towers. There's a cancer eating at the Imperium. With each decade it advances deeper, leaving drained, dead worlds in its wake. This horror, this abomination, has thought and purpose, which functions on an unimaginable galactic scale. And all we can do is try to stop the swarms of bioengineered monsters it unleashes upon us by instinct. We have given the horror a name to salve our fears. We call it the Tyrannid race. But if it's aware of us at all, it must know us only as prey. These were the words of Inquisitor Bronslaw Sevek at the Conclave of Har. They're about the Tyrannoids, a vile race that leave nothing in their wake. However, this world, it was imperative that we stop them from taking it. At one point, we were winning. The local species of this world were monsters, and the most abundant was a strange-looking creature we dubbed the Pukei-Pukei. a strange cross of a bird and a reptile with a long tongue. But the wings look like, well, webbed feet like you'd find on an amphibian like a frog. These things gang up on weaker creatures and cower when stronger monsters appear. However, in this case, strength in numbers and possible extinction caused them to stand their ground against the Tyranids, turning red in the face and wing feathers. It was definitely a sight to see, a sea of green turning to red against an oncoming army. You wouldn't think that these Pukei-Pukei would stand a chance against the Tyranid, seeing how the Tyranids are ferocious predators. But, as luck would have it, the Pukei-Pukei can spew a potent poison from its mouth and tail. That, well, it was extremely effective against the Carnifex, as well as the other Tyranid hordes. As the battle ensued, it woke something neither the Tyranids, let alone something we could have anticipated. We had heard the rumours. Some planets have guardian beasts. They awaken and protect it in times of catastrophe. World-ending events. This was one of those times. A giant beast awoke. It broke through the earth, causing a dust cloud and large piece of debris to fly for miles around. All that could be heard was a loud roar as this giant black and red creature rose up and began to attack the Tyranid horde. It saw the hive ships. It leant forward and sent a powerful energy blast out in all directions from the spike-like spines on its body. I'm not going to lie, seeing the Tyranid hive ships and the massive hordes of the battlefield being annihilated was a nice sight to see, but it did come at a cost. This giant beast we call Shin Godzilla, after an ancient legend in human history of a giant lizard protector of Earth known as Godzilla. If I remember right, now that I think about it, the look and abilities of this creature was similar to that legend. As I said, there was a price to pay. This giant creature sent those blasts out everywhere. All sides of the battlefield were hit. While we were grouped, the Tyranids, being beasts, sent everything they had at this newfound threat. It made short work of the general horde. When it came to the more sturdier Carnifex that started to swarm, they came out of nowhere, like someone had poked a beehive on an ant's nest. The swarm were relentless and started to overpower Shin Godzilla. That was until it opened its mouth wide and let out another blast, this time more concentrated and devastating. The swarm was cut in half in a matter of minutes. A newfound sense of hope filled our side. Humanity had halted our main attack to let this giant protector of this world handle the oncoming horde. We did aid against the horde as best we could, being careful not to get in this thing's way. That was until the unthinkable happened. The swarm slowly started to overpower this giant. They began to bite and claw at the creature's feet, shredding the flesh from its bones as they mounted on top of each other. Again and again, Shin Godzilla blasted the swarm, but they just kept coming. More and more hive ships appeared, and those damn wretched things began to create those accursed towers. The capillary towers. Those disgusting things began to suck up the fallen on the battlefield to use their biomass as fuel for their army. No one's quite sure how it works, but these towers are able to take memories and genetic attributes like abilities from the mass they absorb. This is their greatest strength, their ability to evolve and strengthen their base species with each world they devour. This time it was the bodies of the Pukei-Pukei, the fallen Carnifex, and pieces of Shin Godzilla that were being fed back to the hive ship. This was most likely the point this world had fallen to these beasts. As the battle raged on for what seemed like an eternity, one of the hive ships exploded, and the tower it was linked to crashed to the ground. We thought this was a blessing, that something was finally going our way in this god-forsaken war. That was until a new Carnifex came out of the wreckage. It grew in size at an unbelievable rate. It grew and grew until it was the same size as Shin Godzilla. However, this was more than just a giant Carnifex. It had the features of multiple creatures, most obviously the body. It was a combination of a bleeding Carnifex and Shin Godzilla. On its tail was what looked like the head of a Pukei-Pukei, drooling poison from its mouth. This monstrosity was unlike anything we'd ever seen from the Tyranid. Just when we thought there was hope against this never-ending, relentless nightmare, things got worse. What else could we do? We had no choice but to abandon this world. We left the two beasts to battle it out, but we all knew the outcome that was about to happen. The Tyranids had just gained a new form of Carnifex for their infestation to ravage the universe. We named this monstrosity Shin-pukei-fex. the latest ultimate weapon of the Tyranid Horde. This was one of the combinations I was looking forward to the most, and yet at the same time, probably the one I spent the most time trying to figure out how to best incorporate the elements of Shin Godzilla, a Carnifex, and the Pukei-Pukei. I wanted to keep the core essence of each one in this fusion, but bring them out so they formed a rather unique and truly monstrous fusion. Since I knew this was going to be a beast of a challenge, and it was, I mean, this took the longest to do, and I racked my brain trying to figure out poses and how I'd get all the limbs and details in on this one. I kind of knew this would be a monster that not even Ehrenfold, our Beast Slayer, would want to face, let alone something easy for him to win against. I decided to jot down a few of the features that I wanted to take in the design going forwards, which is really useful and I'd recommend it. So I listed out what elements from each of the three I wanted to do. I wanted it to have those extra limbs and pincers that the Carnifex have. Now, I know there's different variations, so some can have praying mantis kind of arms and effects from what I've been told, but I quite liked the idea of having like this crustacean-like armor from the Carnifex with the pincers. I think it just added something new and kind of fun to a Godzilla-based body. I've also been thinking about doing something with Warhammer for a while now, so going to this I was super excited about using a creature from it, the Carnifex. As with the previous design, I wanted to push myself and see if I could take this one to the next level. I hope you all like how the Shin-pukei-fex turned out.
All right, now the last one that I'm giving you is a little bit more modern. It's a manga that I've read that I know is getting turned into an anime in the next year or so, I think. And I'm giving you the main character from Kaiju number 8. And it's a really cool series. I think there's 8 volumes of the manga out now. And I don't want to get into like spoiler territory for it, but the core of it is this guy gets the ability to turn into a kaiju in a world that's overrun by kaiju, where he's trying to become a kaiju hunter. It's got definitely vibes of Attack on Titan. His design is a little bit Deku in his vigilante form sort of vibe to it. And it's like, again, design wise, it definitely leans a little bit simpler than something like the Carnifex, but just the skull face, the glowing teal elements to him, I think something you can have a lot of fun with.
Yeah, I've also got vibes of like Pacific Rim Black. Have you seen that? They've got like the young boy turns to the kaiju as well after hearing that, which was I've got so many nice ideas from just seeing that part, how to integrate it. That's going to be awesome. That's like
nice.
Yeah, I like that whole concept and that design. That's going to be quite fun.
So for the final one that I thought I'd throw your way is this one is just, I love the shape language of this monster and just the attributes it gave it overall. I'm giving you the Deathclaw from Fallout. I love like the claw and hand design of this monster, as well as like its crowned, hunched back and those really cool big horns. I just love this creature. It's just such a like imposing silhouette. It's so cool.
Yeah, that is quite cool. It's got that whole Minotaur vibe as well. Kind of like the horns on the head and the huge body as well. Yes. Nice. I like that one. I'm going to have a lot of fun with these ones as well.
Awesome.
The Defense Force is renowned for stopping kaijus with deadly force. The devastation and mess caused by the battle often left the flesh and corpses of kaiju all over the place. Kafka worked for the Professional Kaiju Cleaning Company, also known as Monster Sweeper Incorporated. It was after one such attack while cleaning up the mess, an unknown kaiju entered his mouth and altered his DNA beyond anything anyone could imagine. The reason for this was because the kaiju in question was the product of a top-secret experiment to give the host the powers and abilities of a kaiju. This would be the ultimate weapon of the Defense Force. An elite squad of highly trained and dedicated humanoid kaijus that could take on the daunting task to protect the citizens from the threat of actual kaijus. This specimen that entered his body was an untested prototype which combined the DNA of Godzilla, the only known kaiju to protect humanity. However, Godzilla was under the protection of HEAT, the Humanitarian Environmental Analysis Team. As such, this creature's DNA was was not something anyone was privy to. This didn't stop the Defense Force from obtaining a sample of the DNA after an incident where a rather ferocious kaiju injured Godzilla. Instead of disposing of the blood at the scene, the Defense Force took a few samples in order to work as the basis for this project. However, in a bid to make the ultimate weapon, the DNA of several other kaiju were also added to the mix, and a subspecies of kaiju known as a Deathclaw, a creature that resembles a minotaur if you ask me. The Deathclaw was part of the first experiment to create a kaiju fighting creature based on genetically engineering kaiju DNA. The goal was to replace humans in close quarter combat, but the project was discontinued after several Deathclaws escaped into the wild. Their effectiveness against larger kaiju was also a factor in closing the program down. Deathclaws can be identified by the large horns on the head of a reptilian-style body. The main weapon and feature, however, is a large claw on one of the arms. This is gigantic in comparison to the other one. The claws are razor sharp and able to slice through armoured plating in seconds. The combination of this cocktail of kaiju DNA created a brand new species that was designed to bond with a human host, replace the heart of the host with a kaiju core. The core, in essence, is the key to any kaiju, its power and its weakest point. Finding and getting to it is often a challenge, which is why having other kaiju-like creatures similar to Godzilla has been deemed crucial to the survival of humanity. What better means to stop a giant monster than a giant monster that can be controlled? Unfortunately, the prototype specimen, dubbed Kaiju 8, escaped the research facility before it could be joined with a Defense Force soldier. It just happened that it found and bonded with Kafka. After merging with his DNA, Kafka gained several powers, but the most notable was an ability to turn into a humanoid type of kaiju. This new form comes with several benefits that are common to kaijus, such as immense strength, increased durability, enhanced speed and reflexes, but also, as with most kaiju, and with a combination of the Godzilla DNA, he's able to power up the bioelectrical energy in his body and spine. This can, and does, make some of his abilities more powerful. Like Godzilla, Kafka can concentrate the energy from his body through his spine and the spiked plates on the back of his body, before firing a form of atomic blast from his mouth. While in battle, he can regenerate. And he can regenerate from some extensive damage, including growing back limbs. However, this does take a toll on his body, causing him to become more tired and drained of energy. It's a blessing that a human has gained these powers, however, there is a dark side. This power is a double-edged sword, and one that can backfire on humanity. It's been seen several times, but through sheer luck, he's managed to stay on humanity's side. The rampant cocktail of DNA bonded with his own has left his mental state somewhat unusable at times. Kafka's psyche has been strained by the wild instincts, driven by the nature of the kaiju. When his psyche snaps, he loses control and undergoes another transformation. His kaiju form begins to mutate uncontrollably, and his ability to shapeshift starts to run rampant, creating smaller limbs and heads on his body. Even tentacles have been reported to form, but the most terrifying change is that using the energy from his kaiju form, he can create thrusters on his elbows to increase the speed of his attacks. It appears he does this on instinct instead of using his conscious human mind to control this game-changing ability. It's theorized this unstable mentality is due to the Deathclaw DNA mixed in, as well as a combination of the various kaijus. When he loses control and his psyche snaps, his shape can change to the size equivalent to Godzilla and other larger kaiju. He has been able, after a minor destructive rampage, often resulting in the elimination of his kaiju opponent, to come back to his senses, and after reverting back to his original human form, once his exertion catches up with him, he often requires several days of rest and ends up in a coma-like state. The only exception to this is if another kaiju appears. If this happens, he'll transform into his humanoid kaiju form and seek out the creature he sensed before engaging it in battle to destroy it. It is unknown how long or effective he can be in this war against the kaijus, and the more his psyche is put under strain and snaps, the longer it takes him to regain his humanity. It is only a matter of time before he inevitably loses his mind, falls prey to the destructive kaiju-driven instincts, and turns on humanity and those he protects. It's for this reason that the Defense Force has not only studied, but taken samples of his DNA to begin work on a new version of the Kaiju project. Project Kaiju Mirror. For the base creature, I wanted to go with the TV series, the animated TV series of Godzilla from the 1998 to 2001, I think was the range of the series. It hasn't been used much in any Godzilla designs, but for me it's a bit of a classic, and it's a program I watched growing up, which I quite enjoyed. I remember watching the Godzilla TV series growing up, and I loved the animation modern design used for him. So this seemed like the perfect base to use, and I'm super glad that I did. Without realizing it, when I picked this Godzilla as a base, the slim iguana-like body has more of a deathclaw feel to it, so that tied in really well, and it made it easier to add some of these elements. It was super nice to have a fusion, which I didn't really have to think too much about. The actual design of all of the characters on this could be done really well. So the kind of skull feature from Kaiju number 8 and the glowing bioenergy lines for his body and the armor plating, combined with the horns and the kind of claw from the Deathclaw on a larger, almost human iguana-like body, was really nice to have. And I quite enjoyed it. And there's not really much else to say on this one. So I think we can wrap this fusion up and have a look at the final result.
The first one, I thought this one was going to be the easiest one out of all of them. And I had a pose in mind, but it didn't work out, so I had to change it up slightly. It came out quite cool, but getting all the elements of the characters to go together, just melding it in, was a bit of a challenge.
Ooh, that's cool.
Oh, yeah.
The skulls were really weird to try and put on the shoulder for the base. It was kind of like getting them aligned, and then also for the underbelly was kind of tricky for the angle of the body. It was quite, and I was torn between putting like a Greek robe across the kaiju or not, just to add that to it. But I thought I'd keep it back to the basic.
Yeah, I like how you did. I like where you put the skulls, but I also really like how you incorporated the unagi. Like, I love the striping on the neck and like the whiskers and all that. And then I also see it on the forearms. It's really cool.
Yeah.
I struggled with how to put the unagi into the design a little bit, but it was a good fun challenge to do that.
That glowing stuff coming out of its mouth is really cool too, and like the like I guess 3 different types of glow all around it really help draw us to the head. The glowing on the neck, out of its mouth, and its eyes are all nice.
Yeah, I was quite pleased with how this one came out. This is the one that I thought would be the hardest of the lot, but I found the easiest to do.
Wow. That's cool. Holy cow.
Oh, yeah. So this was the Shin-pukei-fex and the Carnifex, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
on a Shin Godzilla base.
That is, yeah.
This one, I was going to say, this one I thought was going to take the longest to do because of all the complex elements. But when I started putting together, it just fell into place, which was quite nice.
Yeah, I love that you put the Shin-pukei-fex face as almost like a false tail face type of thing. I think it's really cool. And just like the I don't know, it just looks really cool how you rendered it, and just how all the elements go so well together. Like all the cool colors and like the pops of like the reds. It just looks really cool.
Yeah, the arm, the like, I don't even know what you call it, but I've played around with that too with Carnifex designs, and I've used it since the first time I drew a Carnifex drawing, or a Tyrannid drawing, I mean, is like the armor with the back or front of the armor having like a different color kind of streaming into it. I don't even know how to describe it, but like you work that in super well. Like that's a really nice detail. And then how even on the armor on its back, those like hole segments have a different coloring to them too. I think that just really like ups the detail of all the armor on it. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really fun to draw. It was just I thought this was going to be the hardest one to put together, but as soon as I figured out the basic pose, it just fell in place, which was a nice surprise, that one.
Nice.
And we have the final one, which I quite enjoyed doing, and I kind of worked a bit more on the light and shading on this one as I was going through it, but I really enjoyed how this one came out.
Ooh, that one's really cool.
Oh, yeah.
I love the glowing that you added throughout its body, kind of like how I had the green glow in mine, like the blue glow, and this is like so cool. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it gives me almost like Tron vibes with the glow like running through and in between the segments of its armor and stuff.
The the bit I couldn't decide on this one is if I went with more of a humanoid base or a kaiju base. But luckily the animated series Godzilla was kind of like a humanoid version of the lizard, more in its posture.
Right.
So it kind of blended the characters in nicely with the Death Claw and then Kaiju number 8 and then that Godzilla. It kind of just gave me a nice humanoid shape to work with. But yeah, it was quite fun trying to figure out how to get all the glowing bits in the right parts of the body.
Yeah. I love how you work that in. That's like one of my favorite elements of the Kaiju number 8 design is that like it almost like, I don't know if I said this, but it has a very Deku kind of look to me, like Izuku Midoriya style look, but almost him as a kaiju. And then those glowing teal segments, I just think are like really cool. So it's nice to see that you work that in a cool way.
I did like Kaiju number 8's design for the I think it was his design for the eye. So I've kind of put that in. It's kind of like a set of glowing circles. So it's not exactly a pupil. So
Right.
it's got that kind of like glow effect going out, which was one of the fun parts of doing this design.
Yeah, they came together really coolly. I like this is so cool. I love it.
Yeah. The Tyranid Puke or the Carnifex Puke Shin Godzilla is my favorite. I am partially biased because I love all three of those characters on their own originally, but I think that design turned out super cool. The claws and like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards that one, or the Death Claw one is really cool too. Those are like my top two. All of them are really cool though.
I hope you all enjoyed how these Godzilla design fusions turned out. This challenge did push myself and the artwork quite a fair bit, but I really enjoyed it. I do like how all of them came out, but my favourite I think has to be the Shin-pukei-fex. The mixture of the Shin Godzilla, Pukei, and the Carnifex. I think that one came out the best in my opinion. This design was so much fun to work on that I'm considering doing more Godzilla and Kaiju related content on the channel. But what fun would the design challenge be without giving a little something back to the other artists involved? Well, I guess you're wondering what I gave them to work with? And here it is. For Christian, I gave the Fourth Angel from Evangelion, the Big Samu from Street Sharks, and Apton in his Omega Blast form from Gaiba. For Katelyn, I gave Ensign 2 from Gaiba and Beerus from Dragon Ball. If you haven't seen Christian or Katelyn's video yet, I highly recommend you check them out and the incredible designs they came up with. I'll link their videos in the description, as well as a link on screen somewhere. I really enjoyed doing this fusion challenge, and I'm looking to do more content of a fusion nature on the channel. So here's a challenge for you all. I want you to suggest franchises that I might not have worked with on the channel before to use in a future fusion video. With that said, that's it for today's video. Be sure to check out Christian and Katelyn's videos. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Catch you next time.